turn upside down in two ways: psychologically and physically. Because the rotation of the earth is going back to what it would be. They know the rotation of the earth has changed every time the cycle comes. And I think we're months away from the end of the down curve to the cycle we're in. Right when we hit the bottom, that's when everything goes berserk. That's why they're telling people about these new planets. Oh, they find, you know what, it's so, you can't really trust science either. They reportedly find one planet, then they lose it. How do you lose a planet? Because they made it up. And it's really becoming laughable. They're making up stuff, telling the public about all these different things. But I'll tell you this about the heavens. When the red dust begins to fall, what you better do is understand that that is the beginning of the end of everything that you knew. When that red dust comes, when it settles upon the water, when it covers the moon, and the moon turns red, you better know that is the beginning of the end. Not the end of the world, but the end of things that you knew. You better start walking spiritually today, that when that day comes, you'll be okay. You don't know if you have months left. Let me tell you how fast it can get here. Can I tell you how fast it can get here? We could be here today talking on air, and that red dust could begin to fall.
The Department of Natural Resources is changing the way it's addressing climate change.
Department of Natural Resources quietly removing language from its website.
The new write-up is titled "The Great Lakes and a Changing World." Officials have removed wording that says humans and greenhouse gases are the main cause of climate change. The DNR now says the subject is a matter of scientific debate.
Rare snows across San Francisco Bay Area. We have to go into the Wayback Machine to see anything like this. Also an astounding 3 feet of rain equivalent, going to turn into 20 to 30 feet of snow over the next 10 days. Iridescent clouds appearing over Brazil. Massive 60-foot waves smashing the coast of Scotland. Ice pancakes on Michigan, this time 10 feet across. As our solar cycle declines, cosmic rays on the jump. Back to the disk. No sunspots. Southeast U.S. looking at over a foot of snow in Georgia. Polar vortex across the central states. Polar vortex across Europe. And Eurasia frozen at minus 61 degrees Fahrenheit.
A mystery in the waters off Nova Scotia. There is growing concern about thousands of sea creatures washing up dead on their shores.
They have been finding dead herring on the beach for more than a month. But recently, other marine life has started appearing ashore.
Then yesterday we started finding scallops on the beach. Nice big scallops, and like everything's dead. We'd like to know what's going on.
So at least for now, the mystery continues to baffle residents and social media commentators alike.
Well, if you live on the water in eastern Baltimore County, you may be seeing something that's rather unpleasant. Thousands of dead fish are washing up on shore.
Fish are dying by the thousands.
Something is just killing them. They're washing them up. They're coming in here just like starving for oxygen and turning over and just rolling over and dying.
Chuck Adams first noticed the fish kill on Christmas Day. Deaths that so far remain a mystery.
No, it'd just be nice to find out what's going on. We're all very concerned, all of us and neighbors, everybody's been out here looking to see what's going on. We just don't know.
California and Nevada were shaken this past week by a swarm of earthquakes.
On the series of earthquakes that rocked the California-Nevada border.
Overnight earthquakes waking up the California-Nevada border. The State Geological Survey recording the strongest cluster, ranging from a magnitude 5.7 to 5.5 on the Richter scale.
A 7.6 magnitude earthquake hit the island of Chiloé, a famous tourist spot in Chile, on Christmas Day.
Magnitude 3.3 earthquake shook 5 miles from Malibu this morning. The epicenter was 13 miles from Agoura Hills, 14 miles from Thousand Oaks. In the last 10 days, there was another magnitude 3 earthquake.
This dash cam caught this quick flash in the night sky, a meteor falling on the horizon.
If it's an out-of-this-world New Year's celebration you're after, all you have to do is look to the cosmos. A comet is set to journey near the moon this New Year's Eve, helping us ring in 2017.
So this is the device that emits the light. It is seen here on an Alaska web camera. We can see the proof of this object. It's the same thing. It's also behind a lens system, but that is really not that important at this point, but what the heck. Let me show you the lens system real quick. So we can almost catch this every time on some of these Australian web cameras, that we can see the lens system working in concert. See these lenses here? Not planets, lenses. Why they're there, to pull them out of focus. I don't want to go into a lot of detail. I don't have a lot of time. We can see the short lens, the tall lens. We can see the spinning, oscillating Fresnel lens. We can see the light going above and below in a timely fashion as the sun sets. That's our fake sun. So with that, and then we get the patented, there is a patent on it. And the way this works, I'm going to go through quickly, that this fake sun bounces the light off a convex, which has a hole in it, bounces onto a lens here, goes through the hole in this lens, we're looking at it sideways, bounces back off this convex lens, and then this light goes out to the Earth.
Galactic and cosmic events in history may be taking place on Earth at this time. There are enormous waves of energy being recorded by our science instruments, such as the equipment used for morphed integrated microwave imagery at CIMSS. The immense power and energy to generate this type of wave is tremendous, as seen in these graphic images for December. Something strange is happening, so much so that many alternative media journalists, as well as modern religious prophets, alternative scientists, bloggers, whistleblowers, and the awakened community are actively reporting on this incredible phenomenon, which is now taking place during the 2016 winter solstice timeframe. Following information to you, and it will be up to you to decide if these events are coincidental or may actually be related to the wave of energy speculation that is now inundating the internet world. As both an observer and a reporter, I am compelled to at least provide information that could prove to be prophetically accurate based on both past and present fact-based patterns. So let's take a glimpse into the past that may give us a better understanding of what is happening now. Several popular internet bloggers who tend to specialize in geoastrophysical data have been warning that some form of galactic energy would bombard the Earth towards the end of December of 2016. They maintain that enormous electromagnetic cosmic pulse waves have been striking the Earth, showing up on mimic IPW microwave imagery as a strange anomaly, if nothing else. The largest burst ever recorded, 100 times stronger than any other known, came from the Magnetar SGR 1806-20's potent magnetic field decay on December 27, 2004, and is strongly linked to the December 26th 9.1 magnitude West Sumatra earthquake in Indonesia that resulted in a tsunami, killing over 250,000 people in the Western Pacific and Indian Ocean, and it became the world's fourth deadliest natural disaster in over 100 years. Despite its diminutive size in diameter, SGR 1806-20 is the most highly magnetic object ever discovered. The late December 2004 light was invisible to human eyes, falling in the gamma ray energy range and far more energetic than visible light or X-rays. The HGR 1806-20 explosion that occurred 50,000 light years away from the Earth finally reached our planet on December 27th of 2004, after its Stargate eruption occurred tens of thousands of years ago, becoming the brightest observed event known to be sighted on Earth from an origin outside our solar system. The lit-up ionosphere that lies at the outermost rung of the Earth's upper atmosphere was actually partially ionized by the pulse's magnetic radiation. Our magnetosphere, which is the protective layer extending 370,000 miles above the Earth's surface, was damaged by the intense galactic magnetic radiation. That magnetar blast, observed a dozen years ago, incredibly released more energy in just over 1/10 of a second than our own sun has emitted in the last 150,000 years. That's how amazingly powerful these magnetars can be, seemingly unfathomable to the limited human mind. Since nothing comparable to this event ever occurred that was so closely monitored, recorded, and analyzed, it took 2 months after the fact for NASA to finally issue its official explanation on its website in February 2005 of what the scientific community around the globe believed took place. NASA concludes, such a close and powerful eruption raises the question of whether an even larger influx of gamma rays disturbing the atmosphere was responsible for one of the mass extinctions known to have occurred on Earth hundreds of millions of years ago, rows that were due for another pole shift. These disturbing trends are explained by the cumulative damage already sustained by the 2004 blast that destroyed a portion of our protective magnetic shield, reducing the Earth's resistance to further destruction by both solar and galactic flares that strike the planet's atmosphere and crust, internally heating up and destabilizing the Earth's iron core and molten metal mantle, that in turn increase surface activity of both volcanoes and earthquakes, of which we've observed a huge spike in recent years. Magnetic fluctuations, both internally and externally, are directly connected to the Earth's tectonic plate movement. The solar and galactic flares that are wreaking havoc on our magnetosphere play a major factor, causing the significant rise in major earthquakes and active volcanoes that are now soaring on our planet.
Do you know why? Because it's a matter of almost like fluid dynamics. Certain parts of celestial mechanics, a lot of static involved, electronic discharges. But it's traveling so fast it could be here up on us before anybody can notice it was even traveling. We know that we live in the time because 5 asteroids have been determined with the same material they dug up. Listen to what they've been doing. These archaeologists have been digging up dust and materials. So we send all these probes out in space, trying to read the debris of a tale of what's really passing, while they woo and awe you with things that are passing the Earth in the public's eye. So they're matching up what rock goes with what, so they can find the cycles of when the surface of this planet cracks up. And they found their matches. 35 specimens. 35 samples matched with 35 known objects and dust trails they found in space. They can, through the real type of time measurements, not carbon dating, that is absolutely ridiculous. They can now find out when it's coming back. Let me give an example. Apophis goes by us. Listen to this. Apophis goes by us in 2029, correct? Why does it come back 7 years later? It's not coming around until 2029. That's more than 7 years. But when it passes us, it's coming back 7 years later. Do you guys understand me? They quit talking about Apophis because it probably will hit us in 2036. I would go so far as to say it will hit us. It will hit us. All right? But it's coming back 7 years later. So what does that tell you? All this stuff on the internet that you read about the orbits of comets and things of that nature. And they tell you, well, it comes back every 3,500 years. That's hogwash. Why does Apophis go by in 2029 and then 7 years later it comes back? All this talk about these cycles that they have told the public, that they have set people strategically out there to leak a story. Listen, you want to make sure you get a lie into the public venue? Then call a story a leak. Everybody runs away with it. Or say somebody died to get this information out. See, what I'm telling you is that you can hardly trust what's out there. But you can see, you'll be able to see that red dust. You're going to be able to see it. You'll understand what a meteor storm is. All right? You're going to see things hitting the earth. And when the great hail begins to form, you'll know that the forces that have held so many things together for so long are out of whack, because physics will break down. You guys are going to experience strange problems, electronic phenomena you've never experienced before. I'm giving you signs that you can see for yourselves for what's happening. Listen, any demonic entity affects electronics. It's pure and simple. With electronic phenomena, you know you have a demon present or spiritual energy is high. You'll notice that too, weird things happening. But in the skies, you're going to notice a hue. You're also going to be aware that something has happened to the plant life. The plant life is not going to be like it used to be. Many trees are going to die. Listen to me. Many trees will die, and not from insects. They're going to die. Plant life is going to begin to die. All right? You're going to be able to see this with your own eye. No, they're not going to discuss this because it sounds stupid, just to be honest with you. I'm showing you things you're going to see with your own eye. That will be your proof. If you have to see something, that will be your proof. Even now as we speak, forces are exponentially increasing upon the face of the earth. Not gradually, exponentially. Do you know what that means? Magma is on the move under the crust of the earth like you wouldn't believe. It's only a matter of time, of days, until a big poofy explosion. I mean a big magma explosion. The oceans in the South Atlantic and South Pacific, life is going to die there. Get ready for more lobster floating up to the surface, fully cooked. I bet you could reach down there and just eat it yourself, crack it open and eat it, right? It's funny, don't let them beguile you either. You see, while everybody is looking, it is not what you see that can hurt you so much as the things you don't know about and can't see. Most of the volcanoes of the earth are under the ocean. They are not on land. How many of you know that? Have you guys ever investigated the volcanic activity underneath the ocean? That's where most of the horror stories are, under the ocean. Under the ocean. And we're not talking about just, have you guys ever heard of a black volcano? Not because it is black, it's because it oozes out carbon. Black stuff comes out of it. Well, they have other volcanoes where nickel comes out of it. all sorts of things. Now, what is this going to do? Well, let me tell you, let me give you this. As this continues, we have stuff going into the atmosphere. You may know it or have heard about it as climate change. Do you know why climate change is very important? Because it's happening solar system wide. They're having climate change on Mars. In the last 14 years, everything has been heating up, but on Mars and Venus, it's really heating up. I mean, for goodness sakes, you got water trickling down off of certain places in Mars. And the Earth, too, in a like manner, is doing the same thing. And the tilt of Mars is changing, and the Earth is about to get ripped. Listen, the Earth will get jerked in a 2-degree change in its axis. Now, just think of that. Think of a 2-degree change in the axis of Earth in less than 1 minute. You know what happened with that? It's called a double wobble. It wobbles already. But there will be a wobble within a wobble. And the internal wobble is going to be rough and continuous, and it's not going to stop. People are going to be sick for days on end. It's going to feel like you're seasick on the surface of the Earth. You know that happens, it's happening right now to Jupiter, a double wobble. It came from the outside coming in. That's why they were in a rush to go take pictures of Pluto. Not because, let's see what's on there. They didn't want to know that. They can see Pluto and the forces acting upon Pluto from all the way here on Earth. But that's not what they're looking for. They were not looking for the beautiful colors on Pluto. They wanted to see if there were, they have different sensors on what passed Pluto. All right? They showed you the pictures. They're not concerned about the pictures. They showed everybody else. They want the magnetic data that came back from the probe. That's what they want. They're not concerned about the pictures on Mars either. They really don't care what's on the surface of Mars. They want to know what happens to it because it is our warning that we're next. You see, when something happens to Mars, we have about 96 hours before we endure the same thing. So why wouldn't you invest money and put probes all over Mars? That's our early warning system. Then you have other probes that are closer to the sun, right? You have to have those there because the sun has a bad habit of shooting out these magnetic vortices that nobody ever talks about. Huge magnetic, we're not talking about a flare or anything else. We're talking about a magnetic vortice, which can actually affect our magneto. If one is pointed in our direction, you will not see it. But guess what happens? The sun will turn red just by the photons being dragged in different directions. Light will appear to have changed from the sun. And then it's going to grow a tail. I wonder what the explanation is going to be with that. When the sun grows a tail. When its sister, I guess you'd call it. When those forces begin to act and all the sun's particles begin to drift out to a certain location. I wonder what they're going to say. It's going to look like a teardrop. What would you do if you saw the sun as a teardrop? Of course, you'd have to have some magnificent shades because it's going to be extremely bright, and then all of a sudden, poof, it'll put out a greater amount of heat, but not the photons. The photons will be redirected to something else. I wonder what people will do, and it will have no light till the second object passes. It will have zero light. You see, when you live in a binary system, when the cold star, I'm just saying cold, when the cold star gets near the one with all the energy, it begins to feed off of the one with the energy. How many of you knew that? Nobody out there studies cosmology? So it takes all the active components, the photons, all the light and heavy particles, the fuel and everything else, and it sucks it into itself. It kind of refuels, right? What is that called? That means the sun is going to go black. It'll go black, but it's going to be twice as hot. They lied to people about an ice age. Let me tell you about this ice age garbage that they put out. In the North Atlantic Ocean, right? You've heard of the Gulf Stream. People said, well, the Gulf Stream has stopped. And some people say, well, the Gulf Stream is still going. I know for a fact the Gulf Stream has not stopped. I know that for a fact. There are sensors in the ocean. You interpret the data and the Gulf Stream is not stopped. Something else has happened, though. You see, hot water flows on the surface of the ocean, right? It will evaporate, losing what it will do is lose some of its content, and it begins to sink. That water begins to sink at a rate of, I don't know, so many feet per second, which causes the currents in the ocean, right? The cold water is down at the base of the ocean. The hot currents are at the top of the ocean. And salinity is very important. The content, right, of the water is very important. The salt content and everything else. So fresh water at one point stalled this North Atlantic flow, causing Europe to freeze. Europe froze to pieces, right? And that was caused through the melting of the end of the last glacier age. If you look at a weather map on infrared and you see the cloud formations, you're going to notice in the South Pacific Oceans, there's a stalled system that's constantly evaporating. Clouds are coming from this area. Certain parts in the North Pacific, you'll see the same. But the North Atlantic Ocean, you're going to see the flow of clouds in a certain pattern, right? A certain pattern. And as the South Atlantic and the Indian Ocean begin to heat up, that's what causes these storm drivers that hit Florida and things of that nature, right? But something else is happening. Everybody's worried about the hot water not being hot anymore. It's going to be cooled off. But what happens when it gets too hot, ladies and gentlemen? What happens? The cold water at the bottom is going to begin to heat up. And guess what happens? It interrupts the return stream. It causes a superheating event. And that's through volcanism. And then when that happens, the jet stream is affected. And then when that happens, you have massive turbulence in the jet stream. And then when that takes place, the current drivers in the southern hemisphere of the Earth overwhelm the flow of all the oceans. The jet stream reverses. The currents begin to change. They do something weird. Ocean life begins to die. All because of volcanism. Not because of your cars or cow farts. Nothing to do with that. The same process is also happening to other planets. What do we see here? We see an increased energy activity inside the Earth. We see increased energy activity inside the sun. We see increased magnetic energies. You see, Mars is a very weak magnetosphere. So why is it strengthening? Because something is activating the components inside of Mars. What I'm saying is this: something is irradiating the core of the planets. Radiation is pouring into the Earth right now. It's pouring into the Earth. Radiation is pouring in to Mars, to the core of the planet. Radiation is certainly pouring into Venus. Where is it coming from? Where's this radiation coming from? From something approaching. We're dealing with greater and greater amounts of radiation. Greater and greater amounts of radiation. Radiation is energy. You know what? If you have a pot that's not boiling in a pressure cooker, you have no problems if the seal is not right. Right? You turn your eye up just a little bit more. What that is you're introducing more and more radiation in the way of heat to that water, causing it to boil. Now, when it won't boil under massive amounts of pressure, it becomes superheated. Then if you allow oxygen to come in there, then poof, right? Something's going to go wrong. In like manner, something's happening like that to the Earth. That's why magma is on the move like you've never seen before. Some of the conduits that would stretch 200 kilometers, right, down to the source of where magma is normally generated, things of that nature, they too were on a cycle, kind of like the ocean currents. They too have a current, a cooling and a heating type current, cold and hot, right? Of course, you can't call magma cold. You can call it hot. But you had these cooler regions that was solidified back in the rock. What's happening is it's not cooling. It's heating up, so the rock is disappearing. That's the only thing holding Yellowstone from going kapow. Right? It's the only thing holding Yellowstone back from doing that is that the rock is solidifying, but we have a problem. It's too much energy, too much heat. The heat factor is going up inside the Earth by external forces, which means nobody can do anything about it. It's coming from out there. And what's happening is that our magnetosphere allows photons to enter into to the surface of the Earth harmlessly. You know, that infrared energy. That's why you feel the heat of the sun. But it blocks ultraviolet. So does our atmosphere and everything else. But what's happening is through atmospheric compression and changes in our magnetosphere, charged particles are coming in to the surface of the Earth. And they go right through the surface into the core, where they're already, they're just activating the core of the Earth. I mean, making it hyper, like somebody needs to get the core of the Earth some Ritalin to, slow down. But this is a process this Earth has undergone. They won't tell you this. This has happened before. More and more cosmic rays are coming in and heating up the Earth from the inside out. That's going to cause volcanism. It's going to cause a type of swelling. Right? They tell you that we have sinkholes because the water is gone and people dug out too much salt. Well, the water is leaving. What happens when magma is flowing under a big circle of water in the Earth? Does not the water begin to evaporate? It can go through a chemical change also. The components in the water can go through a chemical change, and now you have superheated liquid. That happens deep down in the Earth. You can scarcely call it water. You can call it superheated liquid. And if it's ever exposed to oxygen, because most of the oxygen is burned off, so how can you call it water, H2O? I mean, some really weird things that have been happening underneath the crust of the Earth. No one needs to talk about it because you can't go and investigate it. But it's going to become obvious to the point where our oceans, because has anybody ever heard that the oceans will boil? Have you ever heard that? The oceans will boil. What could cause the oceans to boil? What could do that? I'll tell you what can do that. A change in the atmosphere. If something happens to our atmosphere, in less than 2 minutes, the ocean water will begin to boil. If it happens slowly, nobody's going to live on the coasts. No one. And guess what is happening slowly? So it's going to be very difficult to breathe on the coasts. It's coming. It's coming. Climate changes, the real type climate changes, spiritual endurance that we have to have, physical changes we're going to feel in our body, emotional changes inspired by the loosening of more and more demons because mankind is inviting them, materialistic destruction, a phenomena that the Lord's going to do for us and against the world, right? So we have to deal with quite a bit, a lot. But the changes in the crust of the Earth will happen at the probably one thing that's going to startle most people, capture their attention, is the overwhelming increase in meteor storms. Now, I have really put forth an effort to warn people of meteor storms that are coming, to make them aware that meteor storms are coming to this Earth. Well, now they're going to have to just experience the meteor storms, the crustal displacements, and things of that nature. So guess what? We have to prepare our souls in truth because the change is at hand. And I'll tell you again, August, October 2017, that's your true time. You need to prepare in everything. Listen, everything up to that time. I know the second wave is coming in 302 days. It's going to be 500 times stronger than the first one. And if you go back on the instruments, you'll see the impact of the first one. You'll hear the stories about the electronic phenomena that took place in space. You'll notice that the sun also reacted as soon as it got in here, and that was very minute. This one's 500 times the magnitude of the first one, and that's in late December it hits. But your true preparation, because nobody knows what that's going to do, but your true preparation spiritually And the end of that thing is 2017 is a harsh decision you're going to have to make, which means every hour counts. And you're going to see changes in the coming days, weeks, and months like you wouldn't believe. In the coming days, some of you may have to look 3 times because the world is going berserk. Wouldn't it be sad? Is this a sad thought or what? Imagine yourselves in your house. The Lord comes to you and he says, "Child, stay in the kingdom because this house is going to need you." So the first 6 weeks you're in the kingdom, you're doing everything. A year later, guess what happens to you? You say, "Well, nothing bad is happening." Then you start slipping up, doing things in the world. And when you do that, sure enough, calamity comes to your home. The whole house is torn apart. And then you say, "Well, Lord, you didn't warn me." And he'll say, "Yes, I did." This is how it's going to be with a lot of Christians in the United States of America and abroad all around this world. When they start giving up left and right, they're going to say the same thing. "Well, nothing's happening. I can relax." Why do you think everybody wants a date? They want a date so they can go back to sleep. Anybody who looks for a date is going to push the button on the alarm clock and go back to sleep. They're going to go back to sleep. Every hour is precious. And when it becomes, listen, I'm trying to stress to you, when it becomes real. When it becomes real, it's too late. Do you understand that? When it becomes physically real, it's too late. There's no more prep time. Now you're in the middle of it. You can only prepare for things before it happens. Once it begins to take effect, you cannot prepare. You have to utilize what you have. Can you not see the mercy and the grace upon our lives? All this time people complain, "Well, nothing has happened yet." You better thank God nothing has happened yet in your life. But that's not for everybody. Brutal killings, rapes, murders, just you name it, every second of every day. Tens of thousands go missing every single month. No trace of them whatsoever. And you're telling me nothing has happened yet, and you're looking for a date so you can spend time at a bar a little bit longer. You're looking for a date so that you can strategically set up a time when you're going to conform to the word of the Lord. And you refuse to do it today. That's why you look for a date. To that person he will say, "Depart from me, you worker of iniquity. I never knew you." Anyone who seeks a sign is truly a wicked generation. It's a wicked generation because they don't want to stay prepared. They want a warning so they can get rid of all their trash and then sit up straight like they acted good all along. Like a bad student always wants to know when the teacher's coming back. But the good student is preoccupied with their work. The bad student is peeking all the time. Is the teacher coming? You only peek for the teacher when you're doing something wrong. You only peeked for your parents when you were doing something wrong. Because when you're doing something right, you're in a different mindset. The people who look for a sign are doing something wrong. Jesus said that, not me. He said it's a wicked generation that seeks for a sign. And many people still can't comprehend that. We need to realize that the Father's in full control, that we are his children, and we have no more time.